Good morning. My name is Brant Howard. I'm the founder and CEO of CompassCom Software Corporation. Why don't we give a couple more seconds here for other people to log in? But I'd like to thank you for attending today's Compass University session on single platform tracking delivers comprehensive situational awareness. In today's world, the ability to integrate multiple wireless platforms, networks, IT infrastructure, and GIS mapping data is key to responding to incidents or providing support for planned events. Our speakers today will share real-world examples of how to use these technologies to empower their mission. Compass University is a platform to share technology and lessons learned by stakeholders in our profession. These are folks that are typically first responders, DOT, public works, local and state government, federal defense type professionals that depend on today's technology to provide service to their citizens. So why does CompassCom exist and how did this all start? I started the company 28 years ago based on GPS, GIS, and wireless. And our mission is to provide total insight and total control of your connected workforce with real-time telematics you can trust to empower safety, efficiency, accountability, and sustainability. Sustainability becoming more and more important today as we deal with climate change and different areas that we deal with on the planet. Our just cause are what really drives our team and the people, our partners that we work with, from Esri to Motorola. We build real-time telematic solutions to empower mobile workers to collaborate, respond, and provide services. Continuous innovation with the latest in GPS, GNSS, GIS, and wireless technology to solve some of the most difficult challenges we face in today's world. Our users, again, will experience safety, efficiency, accountability, and sustainability to support their mission success and operational excellence with secure IT solutions. We work with a group of people, if we can have next slide, please, to give you a background on who we've been dealing with over these years, from local and state government to international and U.S. defense organizations, people from FEMA to the Department of Energy, and also people that are running secure facilities in the energy business, such as Dow and BP. This is our customer base and who we deal with, and their requirements drive us to build what we build. So we would like to thank our friends from Derry Police Department for participating in today's event. They have been a longtime user of our solution and have used multiple different wireless networks on different IT platforms, as well as GIS in their common operational picture to drive their operations. They were going to share with you some great events that have happened to them and how hopefully we all can learn from it. In today's event, we're going to have a Q&A where you see Q&A on the bottom below. You can enter your questions. We will address them throughout the presentation. Please submit them as you can, and as makes sense, we will break in and respond to them. We are also going to have a couple polls to understand who's attending and the type of things you're interested in. And then we will have an extended Q&A at the end of our session. So we want this to be an interactive event, and there are no questions that we will not address, and we appreciate your active participation. To be our MC today, John Gallagher from CompassCom he joined us after 32 years career with Motorola Solutions. During his career, he served as an account executive for the Rocky Mountain region, director of and vice president of North American sales for Motorola Information Systems Group. John also served as director of business operations for Motorola Premier One Cab Group and completed his career as a national account manager with the U.S. Department of Interior. He joined us after Motorola and has brought a wealth of knowledge in dealing with our partner Motorola, which we are now in our 8th year as a Motorola business partner, and also the ability to be a voice of the customer in anything from federal government down to state and local law enforcement. So with that being said, I'd like to have John jump in here, and we look forward to a lively discussion today. John, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brant. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I think this is going to be a very informative meeting. There's the first poll question I see has popped up. We're interested in just knowing who our partners and friends out there, what their roles are. So if you can click the button on what applies to you, that would be wonderful. And we'll share that information later. We will tell you about the spread and what the percentages are of the people that have joined us today, and how they fall amongst all these different professions. And they are all professions that we serve today. Okay, so if when we're completed with that, then I'd love to get the first slide, or get our first slides up here. I'd like to do just a brief overview of our product. And I promise to be brief because I think we're going to have a great meeting today with our customer who's participating. So let's, the main offering that we have falls under the space called CompassTrac Enterprise. And basically we are all kind of a multi-device type company. That's why we're having this presentation from Compass University today, to discuss with our customers the fact that our platform is not limited to simply providing tracking information for, say, a land mobile radio, or simply a phone device, or simply a broadband modem. The flexibility is built into the system that allows you to mix and match. And that's what we're excited for our guests today to talk about, because they in fact do that, and they do it very successfully. You see mention on this slide about RTIS. I'm sure many of you recognize that as an Esri product term. In addition to being a multi-year Motorola solutions partner, we've also been with the Esri folks for I would say over 2 decades now. And our mapping solution is Esri based. So if you have Esri compliant mapping data and files, we can easily help you implement them into our solution. We also do support a connector that we developed for our DoD partners, and frankly anyone. It could be civilian use as well, for the Android tactical or ATAC awareness kit. We can provide the location data from devices that typically would not be seen in a ATAC environment, so that we can send over the broadband modem locations, and we can send over the APX series Motorola radio location data. So now you have a very extensive awareness when you look at that TAC view. And so let's see here. We have let's talk about this second polling question. This is very germane to this conversation today, is what type of devices do you have in your environment and that you use to facilitate your workflows every day. This is really the topic for today. So we'd be really interested in knowing your answers to that question. Okay, so here are a number of features that are Motorola exclusive features that we support on their subscriber radio series, APX primarily. You can poll a radio from our console. You can find the last known location. You can set a location on predetermined cadence. You can receive location data on push to talk. You can receive location, most critically, on an emergency situation. If a officer or an employee, anyone who's carrying that radio, finds themselves in an emergency situation, they press the button, your dispatch is going to be alerted immediately. We also support geofencing to and alert on that, so that if folks we have areas in our operation that we do not want people entering, or we do, but we want to know who's entering and who's leaving, we will track that for you. Instant replay. is one of the, I would say one of the, is becoming one of the most important features in our system. And it allows us to replay the location data on a device basis or a group basis to be able to replay an incident. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, a little bit more. All right, this is an example of the replay feature. This is a view of a fairly large parking lot, and you can see the little arrow indicators on the screen. Those are breadcrumbs, right? And every one of those breadcrumbs, if you click on it, and I'll show you an example in a moment, it gives you all the information about that radio. And so this would be the basis for an after incident analysis or investigation where you would have digital evidence that shows exactly where that individual radio was, when it was there, and whose radio it is. So there is an identifier, and you'll show that in the very next slide. In fact, we could go there right now. This is an example of an alert. This is what would occur when a user of their radio pressed their emergency button. And when that occurs, within about 2 to 3 seconds, this red box pops up on the map, You see the radio with a circle around it on that imagery. And that is, that basically tells you that we have an emergency situation. It shows you that radio belongs to Sergeant Jones. That's user definable. That could be a call sign. It could be an ID. It could be whatever you want it to be. And then obviously the moment that happens, no matter where that map was being viewed and what part of the operational area, it centers immediately on that radio. And then you're obviously prepared to respond. The other feature of this too is, if desirable, is we also send an audible alert. So you could have in your dispatch center, through your speakers on console, you could have a very significant audible alarm so that you will not miss this event if someone has turned away from their screen or has got up and left their chair for a moment. Okay, right now, this is the best part of this whole endeavor here, as I'd like to welcome Sergeant Chris Talbot and Lieutenant David Michaud from the city of Derry. There they are. And the reason they're here today is because they cracked the code on this real quick. The first time we put the system in, it only took them a day or so to realize that we were a multi-device system. And so what I'd like to do is ask them a few questions about how they are doing that today. So gentlemen, welcome. And thank you so much for being here. So appreciated.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, John.
So basically, guys, what types of devices are you tracking right now on the system?
So currently at Derry Police Department, we're tracking portable radios for the officers. So the devices that are on their hips when they're in and out of cruisers. We're also tracking the cruisers themselves. We're tracking our radios basically, so we're able to have our entire detective fleet as well. So we use that through the radio system, through our Motorola radios.
Right, and I think I believe you also set these up at different cadences of reporting. So how frequently they report in, which is kind of a key element.
Actually, and I have that figured you to ask. So our patrol vehicles, we have those reporting through our Sierra wireless modems. And because of that, because of the amount of data that comes through, we chose to put them on those modems. So those are reporting every 10 seconds. So we're getting almost real time. I mean, every 10 seconds with the patrol cars. Our portable radios are being reported every 2 minutes. And our detective fleet, those vehicles are being reported through the Motorola radios every 300 seconds.
And so I get Chris, those would be on the detective vehicles. You're using the APX mobile radio in the vehicle.
That's correct.
Correct.
Terrific. So I guess the point we just want to hit on is that as part of as you're planning your solution and how you want to manage your devices and your assets, resources, whatever, is that you do have the flexibility to have different devices and different reporting cadences all in the same environment, designed around what your end use case would be, what the goals you're trying to achieve to manage those resources. Another thing that I would be very interested in asking you about is this VC here is an actual City of Derry police laptop as it is installed in the police vehicle. And I know in fact, I think we could even move another slide here. There is in a patrol sergeant vehicle, right? The laptop in that vehicle has access to CompassTrac viewer in the same manner that a dispatcher would. You basically have set this up with the credentials to allow the patrol sergeant to use this on the road in managing an incident, just as if he were sitting in the dispatch center. Is that correct?
That's right, John. And in furtherance of that, when we initially got this system, just as you just explained, we said, how can we further this? How can we make this so that our assets on the road are able to see what we have out there? The most important, not the most important, but a pivotal role on the road is the patrol sergeant. We wanted that supervisor to be able to see what his assets are, who he has available, and where they are in real time. And we were able to work with you folks to get that up and running on our laptop in our supervisor car. Sergeant Talbot has worked with it firsthand in the supervisor car. He can certainly provide further information on that.
Yeah, I mean, what a tool to have from just the day-to-day, knowing where your officers are. If knowing if you have two officers who are sitting somewhere monitoring traffic or writing a report, you can see that these guys are within a couple 100 yards of each other. Maybe we want to have them move on. That's, before we'd have to drive around town and maybe you saw them, maybe you didn't. But having this at all your assets on one screen, be able to see exactly where they're at is very beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, please continue.
The other thing that I have found, I know the other supervisors find to be very beneficial, is emergency situations. If we have a severe accident and we have to shut down roads, we're able to look at this and say, all right, we have this road closed. Maybe we need to shut this one down. I can see where my closest assets are to have them come in from certain ways and get those shut down. Having the cruisers and the portable radios hooked up with this, if we have a barricaded subject or somebody inside of a house and we're setting up a perimeter, I'm able to now see, maybe we have an outer perimeter, we have cruisers shutting down a neighborhood, and then on the inner perimeter, I can see where the portable radios are set up on what side of the buildings, and I have all my assets right there on the screen, and we can see what is going on, where they're at, as well as the supervisor who's inside. Supervisor inside is able to sit there. Maybe they're doing some intel gathering, talking to the barricade subject on the phone, whatever the case may be. But now we have two different supervisors, one inside, one outside, looking at the same screen and be able to see exactly where the officers are located at this particular emergency.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess I would say that's got to cut a lot of time off of your response. And I know that's critical. Seconds are important, not minutes. In your business, it's seconds. And to be able to set up a response so rapidly must be pretty efficient and effective, I would guess.
Absolutely. Yep.
So along those lines, we have a couple questions here. Might want to address right now, John.
Okay.
Do you have to type in the aliases manually, or can you gather them from the Motorola zone controller when you assign the label to the assets in the map?
Yeah, you would. We do accept information into our database from you. If you can download that, especially into like an Excel format or anything, we can assist the customer to automatically load that. So you're not typing in a whole bunch of minutia that you already have. And I think that's the point. You already have that information, and you'd like us to be able to upload it for you.
Yeah, and the ability to, in the administration page, to see the asset name and labels and aliases and what comes out of the Motorola controller. The IMS is there, right? And
yeah,
administrators can see that, and it's
yeah.
automated. The next question too, which is one that's dear to my heart, is do we track smartphones? In the case of Derry, I don't think our friends at Derry are tracking smartphones yet, but we have a product that's come out now recently called Compass Tracker that tracks iOS cell phones. So you may want to include that conversation in the future too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So and I think that it all goes. I think that the real point about what we're trying to accomplish here is to be able to aggregate as much data from devices that the customer has, get them on a single platform, so they don't have multiple views. That they're, I think as Sergeant Talbot just said, to be able to be in that patrol vehicle, supervisory vehicle in the middle of an incident and be able to look at a map and see your patrol vehicles and your men on foot with their portables, detectives that are arriving on scene from their vehicles, all in that one view is just critical to getting things done quickly. And I think getting things done quickly from all the law enforcement people I've talked to over the last 20 years or so, getting things done quickly and crisply, that's what saves people's lives. And not having incidents linger because you're waiting to get questions answered about available resources. In this case, you already know. You know exactly what you've got in hand and what you can bring to bear. I think that I know that one of the things I wanted to ask you, gentlemen, was I know that you did have an interesting experience with this very soon after developing the multi-device approach, where you now had your vehicles reporting in a 10-second cadence, and then also, being able to track your portable radios when an officer would leave his vehicle. And as you're telling us about this, Chris, I think that one of the important things about that you had mentioned to me one time that I thought was really interesting was that because you have the CompassTrac system in the vehicle, you can actually, if you have an officer on foot, you can go in and your permissions are set up. You can change the cadence on that radio from 2 minutes to 30 seconds. So on the phone,
yeah. So I can start this. We had an incident a few years ago where I was the patrol supervisor. We went to a call for service. That call for service turned into a foot pursuit, which led us to a wooded area. And ultimately, we got the individual in custody, but now we're in the middle of this wooded area. And Lieutenant Michaud was able to go on CompassTrac right from his computer and change my cadence so he could see in real time where my portable radio was at. And then he was able to actually direct incoming cruisers to the closest street and actually tell me the closest street, which way I should walk to meet those cruisers. It was very beneficial because we got turned around a little bit when we got into that wooded area. So, normally in a situation like that, we'd probably try to have a cruiser hit their air horn or whatever, so we could kind of hear and walk our way out that way. But having Lieutenant Michaud at his computer, looking at this map and seeing exactly where we were located and be able to direct incoming cruisers and essentially walk us right to them was fantastic. Saved us a lot of time, especially if this being the case, we weren't really struggling with him too much. But if we had been, obviously we want to get him out of there quick, and that would have been, that's how you don't want to be sitting there you're going the wrong way or going deeper in the woods. So that was very beneficial for us.
Wow. Yeah, that's a terrific example of how when you have the information in your hands, you can really manage an incident so much more efficiently than just trying to talk on radios and figure out where the folks are. It's just sounds outstanding. So at this point, Brant, if you'd like to rejoin, maybe we have some results from those polls that we could share with everybody.
Sure. It looks like, a lot of our friends are public safety communications. So we would expect some of folks in DOD, FEMA, and federal, state, and local are our audience today. So that's we should be right on board with that.
Yeah.
And then if we can go to the next one. this is maybe a little bit surprising, but we're seeing more and more smartphone usage being used in local agencies, as well as Motorola P25 radios, which we believe is a standard that has been there for many years. The question, the right answer is some of the mapping applications on some of these medium-sized agencies, is it needing the application to be able to interface both the land mobile radio and the broadband cellular into one application that's preventing that from happening. But I think, as we found at Derry, they have the ability to do both. And another thing I think was interesting, there was a question about changing the cadence, which you addressed nicely. Thank you. But also there's a difference in changing the cadence in the Motorola system. But with the interface we have in CompassTrac, we have the ability to interface with the IMS to make that change from the application, right, John?
Right. Our in, I would say, 90% of our use cases, our data is being provided to us because where we are attached to a third-party configured IMW port right on the core infrastructure of the Motorola trunking system. And so that device as well can change cadences and provide instructions to the radios as well. But the way our interface was developed with Motorola, we do have the capability from our access point, our user interface, that we can pull the radio down, and if it's set at 5 minutes, even like, for example, as the gentleman were saying about the detectives, all of a sudden they had a detective vehicle, they wanted to drop that momentarily to 30 seconds or whatever they could. And just as they do with the portable radios, and then set it back when the incident's been resolved. So it's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, and I'd like to ask the gentleman from Derry about their source of their GIS data. Do you depend on your own internal GIS department at the city to provide that data? What do you use to build your common operational picture in the background of CompassTrac?
I don't recall actually what we originally did. John, you might recall on our initial build up. I know we have our own GIS department within the town, within our IT department.
Yeah,
originally.
Yeah, I think David, if I'm not mistaken, I think Derry may actually be connected outbound from the dispatch center to the Esri library.
That's probably accurate. We do have active weather maps and everything on there that we can see.
Right, because there's a whole wealth of different imagery and different map types that you can just click on them and access them immediately. It's the only, in most instances where that's not available would be if we were dealing with a DoD customer or a federal customer where the site is extremely secure. And in that case, we basically will co-develop with our end customer a map that meets their needs based on available mapping data they have and mapping data that we will acquire and provide. And then we can customize it with points of interest that are important to that customer. And so that's available, and that's available to Derry as a customer if they ever wanted to do that. But I believe in the initial rollout of the system, you were connected to the Esri library.
Yeah, I think it looks like ArcGIS, and then ArcGIS online data is being used as they said, with the ability to bring in weather and other features, topography, and different views as well. So, and this is important when building a common operational picture for first responders to be able to have access on demand to that data that, as we have been an Esri partner for 28 years, the ability to connect to that resource is critical, I think. Another thing that came up in a previous session we have with Boone Fire Department was the ability to have the encrypted data from the Motorola radios into the system. And of course, the broadband data, I believe, is encrypted as well. Maybe, John, you can address that, and the folks from Derry, if that's an important part of what they use it for.
Yeah, gentlemen, are your conversations encrypted, or are you?
We are not encrypted here in Derry currently.
Right. So, but you're all digital P25, and so that would be that would be an option that if you decided one day to encrypt those radios to like a FIPS 40 standard or whatever, that does not impact our system at all. It's transparent to us, and any yourselves or any customer could encrypt their over-the-air transmissions if they wish to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and John, how large is your community population-wise?
So we're right around 34,000 for our population. Our agency size is 59 sworn officers. So we typically run shifts, 3 shifts a day of about 5 to 6 officers on the road, supervisors inside, and then obviously additional staff for detectives and everything. And we can track everyone, so it's fantastic.
What are some of the larger local events you have in town that you help provide support for?
We actually we have the largest high school in the state of New Hampshire in Derry. So with that venue itself comes a variety of different things, from football games to some concerts. People rent out the hall there, graduations and so forth. We just had a Derry After Dark event here in town, which was a very large brew fest. Those are popping up everywhere now. Fantastic tool for that event, where the supervisor in the station is able to track his assets and know what he has out there at that event. Should something turn south, hopefully it doesn't, but just another event that happens every year here in town. So,
do you cooperate with other local agencies like sheriff departments or those kind of things that you work together with?
We do. So we obviously have mutual aid agreements with numerous towns around us. Obviously local fire department, numerous fire departments, police departments, sheriff's departments. We certainly do all work together.
That's great. And do you have a CAD provider in your dispatch?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay. And sometimes in the mid-sized towns and all, having a very expensive CAD that does soup to nuts can be very expensive and very hard to get a hold of. And a lot of times we see our solution bridging the gap, like you're using it both in dispatch and mobile, with maybe a text-based CAD or a legacy-based CAD to try and pull that position together where you can share all that information. So it's a lot of our clients in the state and local are your size or in that area, because it's a valuable piece, and if you can't afford $4 or $5 million for a CAD, it's a nice way to pull that information in, I would think. I think that's an opportunity that we see a lot.
Yep. It definitely is. We certainly appreciate the setup. There's no doubt about it. So
yeah. And do you have goals for response times in the city and what you're trying to meet?
We technically don't. We're at a spot where we have sector cars, obviously within the jurisdiction, equally spaced within the town. The fire department, I know, is more geared towards response times from their stations and everything like that. We obviously like to respond in a timely fashion. With that said, our dispatchers are great at, rather than dispatching the old way of doing things in law enforcement was you dispatch the guy who's working, or the female who's working in that sector. And now it's who's the closest to the call, send them, because that's saving time, that's potentially saving a life and so forth in the long run. So it's fantastic to have this right up on the screen. So we're sending the closest unit as opposed to just the person who works in that area.
Well, and my next question is a little bit of a risk here, because we've been doing this so long, but I'd like your input on it. I'm sure, and you've been doing this long enough with this type of system, how did you manage dealing with the other officers that may have concerns about being tracked, and how did you handle that situation? Because it's gotten more standard procedure than it used to be 15 years ago when we started this. But how do you deal with some of those issues of people that may not want this system in their patrol car or on their belt?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good, just like with cruiser cams and everything like that, Big Brother's always watching you. I think with us, there may have been, the unions got involved and there was that discussion, and really we're not out there to track the officers for, to keep tabs on them, if you will. It's more for our dispatch. We have the monitor that we have CompassTrac up on. It's got to be 60. It's a massive monitor. So, at a quick glance, I can see who the closest officer is. I don't recall there being much pushback when we got the system. That being said, I will tell you, we had a case where we had an individual file a complaint. We ended up doing an internal investigation because this female said that she was stopped by one of our officers, and there was the officer acted inappropriate. So we ended up going through. We talked about the breadcrumbs, and we went through and we looked at all of our officers for that day, that night, and it took us a couple of days of trying to figure out who this officer was. And at the end of it, she lied to us. She was supposed to be going to her boyfriend's house, but she went to another boyfriend's house. So she made up this story about being stopped by the police and all this inappropriate stuff that happened. But this system really kind of saved our officers that night, because we were able to show that we had no officers in that area at that location that she said. So I guess in that case, our officers were thankful that we had the system.
Right.
Well,
I think in general, they know too that we put the system into place for officer safety reasons here in Derry. We wanted to know where people were. So if they need help, just like the scenario that we explained a few minutes ago, we're able to get the help to them as soon as possible. They understood that, and they embrace it quite well.
yeah, I think that's the way we see it being used every day. And, we talked about the benefits of these systems, and one of them was accountability. And accountability can read as Big Brother, but accountability can also mean cover your butt. Yeah. I mean, is the department doing what they're supposed to be doing when somebody accuses you of not doing it? And do you have the data to deal with that? And thank you. You gave a really good example of how that helped there. And we see that. And then officer safety is just paramount. I mean, the ability to support somebody when they get in a bad situation, I think and you may have, I'm sure you have other examples where that has happened as well. And you talked about efficiency, being able to place officers where they are in the position and spread out to be more efficient in the calls is huge. So we did have a question here, and it really seems like around training and some practice about possible situation and predictions. I don't know if you're using this and when you do training exercises and the replay to look at what officers have done in a training exercise, or if you can look at maybe crime maps in your area and try to put officers in those places. Have you looked at doing any of those kind of things? I hope that answers the question for the person who asked it.
No, we haven't really done it for any of our trainings. Probably is a good idea. I do like that. But no, we have not used that. I do know another good use of this is canine tracks. So if you have a canine track and you want to see an area that you covered, if you were out looking for a missing person or something like that, we actually go back and look at the areas that we have tracked and that we covered with that dog, because we all are also with them. So that's another great use of the breadcrumbs, but we have not, to go back to that question, we have not used it for training purposes yet.
Okay.
And I would only add that we have customers that absolutely do use it for training purposes, because it's, I guess it's when you have an event that comes off exactly the way you wanted it to, and you can now show the folks, hey, this one went great, and here's why it went great. And this one didn't go so good, and let's look at where our assets were deployed, how they arrived, and how they started their initial engagement. And so it can be a very useful training tool if you choose to use it.
Yeah, and I think, John, the best example of that are our National Guard friends that use it out in live fire trainings on those areas, just so they know where the people aren't in the wrong areas when they're doing it, right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there are places, and that's a good application for the whole geofencing type capability, where you can fence areas off. And if people come in with a radio on their belt and they're not supposed to be inside that area because that's not where the mission's been assigned. You can get a quick alert and get the situation straightened out quickly before something goes really bad. So it's just a wonderful discussion with you gentlemen, because this is how, we and our other customers, partners, whatever, really get a chance to understand the real world applications. This, what you folks are talking about, is not a spec sheet. It's real world, and it's terrific.
So we had a question here, John, also about turbo systems, and it was pretty. I don't know do we support turbo systems? I don't know what the question was about. It's just I have a question about turbo systems, but I would.
Yes, we do. Is the answer. So you could have a even as we're talking about the single platform. You could have a complete just turbo system, right? But on the other hand, you could be in a city just like Derry that has maybe their public works people are using turbo and not Motorola P25, right? Well, we could track those turbo radios on the exact same platform, and those assets, whether they're maybe an ambulance or maybe street cleaners and a truck you need just as a resource at an event because something you need to clean something up. You need a couple of pickup trucks, dump trucks, whatever. They could all be visible to you on the map. If those people were all turbo users, it's not an issue for us.
Yeah, and I think the folks at Derry have really got it right in using. I believe John uses CR wireless modem in the vehicle that enables a high data throughput for your mobile data terminal, and then you're tracking your handheld radios, and it's all combined into one common operational picture. And I think in our experience, we've had a real challenge with tracking laptops. Some folks want to track just the separate laptops without the modem, the GPS inside the laptop. That can be a real challenge to accomplish because the laptops are so variable. And if you shut down the laptop, top of the laptop, hit the wrong key or something, your tracking's gone. Your approach of putting the modem in the vehicle and attaching the laptop to that, getting the position out of the modem and handling the data with the modem is really a best practice, I think. We found that works best. And so between that, having the mobile Apex radios in the vehicle to track and also the handsets to track, really, I think gives you a complete picture. And if you wanted to add the iPhones later to the thing, you'd have everything I think you would need.
Great.
Well, let's see. Does a solution? And the question is, does the solution support Z-axis? And the question there, and the answer is there, if the device gives us Z, we collect it and put it in the system. And when you would click and see it in the system, you would see a Z-axis. We have some folks that use these in helicopters, also use units in helicopters, and we track those. We track all kinds of assets, but yes, we can collect and present Z as well. I will say though, the mapping is not 3D today. We haven't had a lot of requirements for 3D mapping, but Esri supports 3D mapping, and it's in our roadmap to support 3D mapping. If you're trying to do active shooter type things or position people in events as far as security or in other response events, yeah, we can do that. Are there any other questions or comments? We really appreciate the questions we've had, and our friends at Derry sharing what they have and with how they've used the system. John, do you have anything else?
I would just say that I would want to once again thank everybody for participating today, and particularly thank Sergeant Talbot and Lieutenant Michaud, because it's that real world information that makes these so successful. The last slide there showed my email address and phone number. If you have any questions that come to mind that you'd just like to check in with us and get an answer, don't hesitate to approach me. I'll be delighted to talk to you.
Well, we have no more questions. Thank you, gentlemen. And I hope you're probably getting into the beautiful fall season up there in New Hampshire. I hope you enjoy it and have a good fall. And of course, winter comes right behind that. So
Unfortunately.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
yeah, thank you. And thanks for sharing. And John, thank you.
Yep.
And stay tuned. If you would like a copy of this recording, you can go to CompassCom website and under CompassCom University or get a hold of John. The recording will be there and available. And if you have questions, reach out to John. And stay tuned to Compass University for more of these type events where we can share the successes and the challenges our folks and our stakeholders have. So thank you very much. And I'm
Thank
out.
you all. Thank you.